All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, and very intelligent small yellow teddy bears. Hello. You go and do your thing as normal there, Ted, good boy. Liza is my guest today, and she's got into some crazy sort of diet somehow, and she's going to tell us her story around that. And also, she's decided for some reason to be an online influencer. Can't understand that
Yeah.
choice. Anyway, tell us all about it, Lisa. Lisa.
Okay. Yes. Hi, my name is Liza, and a bit over a year ago, I just had the goal of losing a few pounds because I wasn't really at my healthiest, and it started with just wanting to look better. And from there, I researched what diets were, and I saw paleo. I came across that, which is essentially just whole foods. It was like meat, vegetables, fruits, and staying away from grains and then starchy vegetables like potatoes. Anyway, I got into paleo at first and it worked. I did get healthier, and from there, I discovered Dr. Berg on YouTube, who's like a keto doctor, and I realized that carbohydrates all turn into sugar in the bloodstream. And before, when I was doing paleo, I kind of thought that natural sugars and processed sugars were like processed differently in the body. I thought, oh, natural sweeteners, they must be good for us. The honey that I put on my yogurt bowl, that's good for us. But then when I got educated, I realized, wait, if people are saying sugar is bad and that the starches from potatoes are turning to sugar in our blood and bread is turning to sugar, then why is everyone saying to eat carbs, you know? And I kind of thought like this was the number one seed that sprouted my curiosity into diet culture. And from there, I went keto, low carb, and I felt pretty good. And essentially, after that, I did more research and found Dr. Chafee, Dr. Ken Berry. I found you as well, Bart. And I went into the whole rabbit hole of vegetables have toxins as well. It's not just the sugar in the plants that are bad for us, but it's also toxins in the vegetables that literally are like sickening us. And I had a lot of problems at the time. One of them being I had like some sort of rheumatoid arthritis actually, where my knees would get like they'd just be in extreme pain for days and days on end, and I had no idea why. And I just hated when I would go to the doctor, they put a pill in front of you, you know? And I hated that. And on top of that, I also had really, really bad acne. Like it was terrible. And again, I was put on so many different medications, and each time it was the same thing. I took a pill or some cream, and then maybe it would start to work, and then I would stop taking it and it would get worse. And after I started paleo, my skin got a little bit better, my issues got a little better, but it wasn't fully solved. I still had bad skin and I still had pain in my joints. And when I went from the keto switch to a full carnivore, that's when everything got so much better. My energy sprouted. I was able to eat so much and I would just stay lean. I never like counted a calorie when I was on carnivore. I was just I couldn't believe it, you know? Like, is this how being healthy feels like? It was crazy to actually experience that. And from there, I decided, why don't I share what I know with other people? Because I know people that suffer with their own issues. And I'm sure that other people out there were suffering with the same things I was with like bad skin, especially like a bunch of teenagers nowadays, and they don't know what to do with it. So I was like, okay, why don't I try and create a platform so I can help out other people? So that's exactly what I did. I created Instagram. I started posting about what I eat and how I make foods. And I recently got into more science based content, and I've gotten lots and lots of backlash and hate from people. But, you know, that's just how it is. It's kind of infuriating. Yeah, but that's kind of where we are today. I still do like a carnivore based diet. Sometimes I'll dabble in an avocado or so. It doesn't seem to cause, yeah, and a little bit of low carb vegetables sometimes, but mostly I'll be just eating a steak, breakfast, dinner, lunch, whatever. And that's just how I feel my best.
Awesome.
So, yeah, that's kind of my story.
All right. So, are you a one meal a day type person or a two or three meals a day? I believe you've got a background as a bit of an athlete as well. You might want to mention.
Yeah,
Mm,
I was a competitive figure skater for years, and I would be training up to 15 hours a week.
mm.
So it was very intensive. And I found that everyone always says, oh, you need carbs to train well and you need carbs to actually be a good athlete. But when I was in my prime of figure skating, that was when I was on carnivore. Like everyone around me saw that I had so much energy and I was the best that I ever was. I stopped doing it now because I got into school and studies was too hard to balance with it. But again, like I think that carnivore really boosts energy and in a way that people just don't understand.
Mm. And I believe you're studying some aspect of biochemistry.
Yes, next year I'm hoping to major in it. Right now I'm finishing my last year of high school, but I do lots of biochemistry work on the side as well as in school.
Right. Wow. So you're that young. I thought you were a little bit older. You're still
No,
in school. Okay.
yeah,
That's incredible. Well, I can only applaud young people for having the gumption and skin thick enough to actually put yourself out there and say something that you have looked at, you have done some research into, you've tried it for yourself, it is working for you, and yet it flies in the face of everything that we're told to believe.
it's literally the
Um,
exact opposite
Now, I
of
mean,
everything that I've told.
one of the main reasons I reached out to you to do this interview and see how you go with it was mostly because I was watching the way that you were responding to some of these imbeciles that were
Yeah,
taking cracks at you, and I thought, this is a young lady. I thought you were a bit older because of the way that you were responding. I thought
really.
this is yeah. I
I
thought
take that
this
as a compliment. Everyone says I look like I'm way too young, you know, like I get
right.
14 a lot, which is
Oh no, I
crazy.
wouldn't have picked that.
Yeah.
No, okay.
Okay, good.
Anyways,
But
the way that you were responding, I thought there is a mature, balanced, sensible um, response, um, which is based in really an unassailable argument. So
thank you. I
your
appreciate
miles.
it.
No, that's absolutely my pleasure. It's just the truth. That's what we do here on this channel. We tell the truth, don't we, Ted?
Yes,
Bollocks!
exactly.
Ted. Goodness. You can't trust Ted. If you want to follow Ted, by the way, anybody, you can follow Ted on the X platform.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can. But be warned, Ted does tend to use quite short words very, very often. Almost everybody is from next Tuesday, if you get my meaning. Mm.
Yeah.
I keep telling him he should probably tone that down, but he won't have it. I can't do a thing with
Oh,
him.
no.
He's his own bear. He does his own thing. Since he became king of all the bears, his ego is completely out of whack, frankly. And so that's what we're dealing with. Anyway, enough about Ted. All right. So basically 100% carnivore except for avocados.
Yeah, avocados and I don't know if this really counts, but I make like bone broth for my family a lot and I'll throw a few aromatics in there like an onion and some carrots, but I don't really eat them.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
All
But
right,
other than
then.
that, yeah, mostly carnivore.
All right. Well, let me just check with Ted that you can keep your carnivore card. Yes, he's
Can
happy.
I?
Yes, he's happy.
Okay. Okay, good.
Uh, yeah, Ted says you can keep it. All right, no, that's excellent. Right, so that being said, you said you started out an Instagram.
Mhm.
Tell us about that, and are you on other platforms as well?
Okay, so I first started on Instagram posting about what I said, like what I'm eating. I did some recipes before, but
Mm,
then once I became carnivore, the content just started circling around how I healed my skin. I did a lot of content on that because I know a lot of people who've actually reached out to me saying that they've had a lot of skin issues and that like my advice has actually helped them resolve it. And it actually warms my heart when people message me and say, because of you, I started eating more meat because it just makes me feel like, wow, like I'm actually making a difference here on Instagram. And I've gotten the most response on Instagram because that's where I do most of my content. I'll post a lot of content right now about I'm getting more into responding to different like I'd say propaganda online, like mainstream advice from people, and I'll try to debunk it through like a scientific standpoint, not just a personal one, because I like everything to be science based and actually have real evidence behind it instead of just, oh, they did a study. Because I genuinely hate when people use that as proof for
studies
something.
show. Studies show.
Studies show this, and I
Mm,
say, well, the science shows the
yeah.
opposite. Yeah. Um, I dabble a little bit in YouTube. I probably will start posting more often. But yeah, now my content is mostly Instagram based. I do have a TikTok, but it's not my favorite social media. I think Instagram,
Mm.
I've reached out to the most people. I have the biggest platform on there, and I share just the most advice and content on there for other
Awesome.
people.
So what is your Instagram handle?
My Instagram handle is Liza's Life 360 because it's like all around my life that I'm
Yep.
sharing.
Yep. Okay. Good. All right. So say that again, just for people that are slow like me.
Liza's Life
Lisa's Life
360.
There you go.
Yeah,
Lisa's Life
Liza's Life
360. Got it.
360 on Instagram.
Awesome. So that's what you do, Meat Militia, every one of you. Go and subscribe over there. Give that a huge boost. Get the rhythm of Al Gore going in terms of all of that. And if you'd like to see more of Liza on the YouTubes, well, there's a couple of things I've got in mind, just quietly, because I really want to help and support young people who are getting started in this industry, because I think this is the industry of the future. This is the way people are going to make their money, rather than traditional jobs or traditional careers. And so it's all about the cross-pollination. So first of all, you need to all make comments under this video that Liza absolutely ought to concentrate on her YouTube as well and get that up and running.
Yes, I will.
But also you should encourage her to come and do some question and answer sessions live here on the Meat Militia channel, otherwise known as my channel. There's actually another channel called the Meat Militia. That's another one of my channels. Yeah, I've got 5 YouTube channels.
5 YouTube channels, wow.
And only one of them.
Subscribe to all of them.
Yep, they're usually all linked under all of my pre-recorded videos, so they'll be linked underneath.
Because
Yep.
I know for a fact that I follow you and I subscribe on your main one.
Awesome.
Yes, of course.
Very good. Yep. So I mean, Ted's even got his own channel that he lets me. He lets me on
YouTube
there
as well.
Yeah. So there it is. He doesn't get naming rights on it, of course, but that's kind of where he hangs out mostly when he's not doing very, very short words about parts of people's anatomy, really, on the X platform. As I say, it's probably not the sort of thing that young people should follow at all. Ted's a bit rude, is what I'm saying. But there's that. All right, well, all of that's good. And so we've piqued the curiosity of my audience, hopefully. Hopefully you all go and subscribe to Liza and you all make comments that she absolutely is a sensible young lady who should absolutely spend more time on the YouTubes, for which will help in the first little while. And do encourage her to come and do some live streams here, because I think, based on the way that she's been responding in writing to people, that she can handle it. Otherwise, I wouldn't offer, frankly. So there it is. Now, we needed to set some time aside during this discussion, Liza, because you had some questions that you wanted to fire at me, and I thought, well, that's awesome. Let's hear what they are and see if I can help.
And before I wanted to ask you questions, I wanted to touch on the importance of reaching out to young people, because a lot of people around my age group are in like Gen Z and the young generation, even younger than me. I can see that they want to get healthier and that health is becoming more of an interesting topic and a heated topic around my age group, which I'm not sure if it always was like that, because people right now, they're like going out of their way to go to the gym and they're actually working on themselves and they're trying to eat healthier. But a lot of young people, I'd say majority, they don't know what healthy actually is. So they're going, and I know a lot of these people as well, they're buying these protein powders, which are filled with crap and soy and whatever seed oils that they put in there somehow. And they're eating this and they think that it's good for them, or they have their chicken breast with the broccoli and the rice, and they think that this is the best way to eat. But I think that they need more education, because there is an audience for young people that do want to improve their health and are willing to get better, but they need help to actually be put in the right direction, because they really aren't steering where they need to go for their health. So I just wanted to touch on, I think it's important to actually reach out to the young audience and let them know, how to be healthy and what the right way to go about this is.
Absolutely. And, I would encourage young people to absolutely not pay attention to the mainstream disinformation mill, because this is an entire, when I started teaching in academia about a quarter of a century ago now, the metrics around, how I was judged as an academic were things like, what grades did my students get? how well did they do in the exam that I'd set for them, etc. By the end of it, I quit being an academic about 5 or 6 years ago now, in terms of as a full-time profession. The metrics had changed entirely to the point where I was being judged on student satisfaction. How much did they
Really?
like me? So fundamentally, academia lost its way in the 20 years that I was involved. Not because I was involved in it. I was very much the conservative in terms of the way academia was, and I thought it should continue to be that way. But that was a period of time when I think the world at large shifted a great deal, sort of in a seismic way, and wokery started, and all of the nonsense around that started.
Oh,
And it,
100%.
oh my God, and it made its way into academia to the
Yeah, it
point,
did for sure.
where,
Nutritional research as well. Oh my God.
absolutely nutritional research is a joke.
It
And
is. Like, it's crazy to me how I hate when people just say there was a study conducted on people where they asked them what they ate, once every 4 years.
mm,
And by that, we know that seed oils are better for us than butter. Like,
mm,
this is the worst proof that anyone can have for anything, especially because you can never actually control people's lives in a way for a study that will actually like have it like make it have merit, in our
mm,
society, because
mm,
you can't control for all the variables. And also, like, in these studies where people are eating meat and they say, oh, meat is bad for us, guess what? They're getting their meat from McDonald's cheeseburgers and from processed meats and from like deep fried KFC chicken. Like, this is not real meat. And it's
mm.
actually crazy how this is the studies like that people are citing for why meat is bad for you and why the carnivore diet is bad. So it essentially has no actual value, I think, in any
Correct.
like
Absolutely correct. Yes.
discussion when someone says there's a study.
Yeah. And then someone like myself, who does have a very significant background in the science, in the research, in nutrition, etc., has a discussion with an imbecile like Dr. Terry Simpson that I had a few weeks ago, who literally sat there without any sense of irony and said to me, yes, well, the lack of rigor is a real problem in science. So what we ought to do is take the conclusions of that science that lacks rigor anyway, because we can't do good science. It's ethically, it's not yeah. So what we can do then is we can do poor anti-scientific claptrap and suggest that because we can't do better science, that's the best we've got, and that's what we should do. I talked to another imbecile doctor called Rogers a while back, who said exactly the same. They all had the same.
Really?
They all play the same playbook. Oh
I don't
yes, we know.
understand how.
We know the
Like,
sance is poor. They say
but we'll
we know it's
follow it
poor.
anyway.
Let's follow. Let's go with
Yeah.
those conclusions anyway,
That's
because
crazy.
we theologically want to believe in that.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
people have steered away from the actual science and
Mm,
mechanisms behind how nutrition works and the actual biology and biochemistry of how these food molecules interact with our organs and in our body. And they're just focusing solely on studies.
mm,
And I think that it's like the worst direction we could have gone in when it comes to nutrition research.
yeah. And then you talk to someone like this clown doctor I'm mentioning, or both of them actually, and they say studies show this, studies show that, and I'm the one that's being unreasonable because I'm the one saying no, they don't. To which and I have to say to them, well, how many studies have you published? None. How many have I published? Quite a good number. One of us knows something about science. It's not you. Anyway, that's for another day. Yes, right. Questions for
Okay.
Ted. He's ready.
Yes. Okay. So my first question is about adding fruit and honey to when someone is a carnivore, because around it was summer of 2025-ish,
Yeah.
I got pulled into all the animal-based Dr. Paul Saladino propaganda,
Oh,
I'd
Dr.
say.
Paul
And
Salad. I don't know who Bart K is. Hmm.
no,
Hmm.
yeah,
Never
I
heard of
actually
me.
saw him. He said that.
Yeah.
And didn't you guys have like a
Oh,
conversation or something like
several.
that?
So
So
either he's
that's
got a very,
insane to me.
very poor memory,
I
or he's
remember
lying.
right after I heard that, I think his credibility to me it just like went away because I did know about that.
Hmm.
And that was crazy. But yeah, so I fell for it. I added back fruit and, it just didn't work. And I didn't realize until recently that that might have been because of the Randall cycle. And I was wondering if you could explain more on why, when someone's like carnivore for so long and when they try to do high fat and high carb at the same time, why doesn't that
Mm,
work? And
yeah,
what is the Randall cycle, and how does that kind of prevent someone from flourishing as well when they're
right.
doing both?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so the Randall cycle is a parsimonious, meaning excessively sparing, kind of label. We have to call the thing something. It's called the Randall cycle because it was proposed originally by a bloke called Randall, funnily enough. It's not any one thing. The Randall cycle is an effect, which is the result of several disparate but interconnected bits of metabolic machinery, if you like, that have various roles to play in the metabolic pathways. What is the Randall cycle? Largely, it's the means by which cells can have quite a bit of influence over not only their fuel selection for the production of metabolic energy, for want of a better term, but also the extraction of energetic substrates from the blood to the cells. So it works internally right down to the level of the mitochondria, and it has knock-on effects all the way back to the cell membrane, where basically, ostensibly to cut the whole thing short, the Randall cycle is able to override the signal that they're receiving from the outside of the cell from insulin. So insulin binds to the outside of the cell membrane and it goes, hello, there's sugar here. Let the sugar in, please. Multipass. But there's a gatekeeper inside the cell that says, no, 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 we already have enough people in this nightclub. No more. And the reason for that is because if you allow sugar to pour into a cell according to its concentration gradient, and there's more sugar in that cell than it can use at that time, the delicate inner workings of that cell, the DNA, the organelles, all the cell membranes, all the lipid rafts, all that kind of stuff, they are all vulnerable to damage by that excess glucose. It's called glycation.
Mm-hmm.
And so if a cell has enough energy inside it, either in the form of carbohydrate or in the form of fat, basically it's a lock the door from the inside. Now I say lock the door, unlock the door as if it's a switch. It's not, it's a fader.
Okay.
But let's just think of it like, okay, if you think of the cell insides as a nightclub with lots of dancing fat and sugar molecules all getting along nicely together and playing nicely, and there's enough of all of that stuff in there, whatever its makeup, whether that's all fat or whether it's all glucose or whether it's a mixture, doesn't matter. It does have an effect on how much the slider is pulled. But once that nightclub is full, we're going to not let anybody in until the number of people in that nightclub is reduced by burning them up. That analogy went dark quickly, didn't it? Never mind. That's what it is. So the main basic first principle that's at play, ignoring the mechanisms, why it happens. I've given you the outline there of what happens. Why does it happen? It's inertia. It's a Newtonian thing, actually. A thing that's doing a given thing will continue to do that thing until some force is applied to that thing to make it do something else, basically. So a mitochondria that is oxidizing largely carbohydrate will want to continue to do that unless a force of fat is applied to that cell cytosol, which is powerful enough to cause that mitochondria to go, whoa, we need to change our ways here. We need to switch over and oxidize fat instead. And the same thing is true if it's oxidizing mostly fat right now. You need a lot of carbs to force it back the other way. So it's just that when you break down fats and when you break down glucose to enter into the TCA tricarboxylic acid or Krebs cycle, the first intermediary is acetyl coenzyme A. And when you break down fat and when you break down sugar, it's the same result. It's acetyl coenzyme A. So they are therefore necessarily competitively trying to add to that pool of acetyl coenzyme A. There's a maximum rate at which that cycle can proceed. And so when you start to exceed that level, if you like, that's when the trouble starts. So that's kind of the most parsimonious, excessively sparing, the most simple explanation of the Randall cycle. But I think there's something much more important about fruit that gets missed by almost everybody.
What is it?
Well, it gets missed by almost everybody, including Dr. Paul Salad I don't know.
Yeah.
Here it is. Necessarily, concomitantly is the word, with no escape, here is a fact. Fructose, fruit sugar.
Thought this would go in the fructose direction.
Right. Here's what happens when you consume fructose. Necessarily, there is an effect on the level of ATP in the liver cells, in the hepatic cells. This is not good because it causes a bunch of things to occur over time, including fatty liver, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease if it's a severe situation, which can lead to all sorts of problems secondary to that.
That's why there's vegans that get non-alcoholic fatty liver disease in kids, which is crazy.
Too much fructose.
It was unheard of before.
Yeah.
Like for a that's why we had to start calling it non-alcoholic, right?
Yes,
because
that's right.
only alcoholics used to get fatty liver disease.
Absolutely,
yes. Started eating so much fructose.
The second thing that's immediately a problem is if you consume enough fructose and pull down that ATP concentration in the liver cells enough, the liver starts signaling that it's starving. And so your hunger goes up, and so you will overeat.
Yeah.
Which then leads to, I mean, when you think about it, we're not bears, are we? No, this guy's a bear. We're not bears. But
not us.
Bears get fat at what time of year? Right before the winter.
Yeah, before.
How do they do it?
Fruit,
by
honey.
eating a bunch of like berries and things that are available to the bear at that time of year. It's the same system that operates in bears in terms of the fat storage thing. Another example, baby humans. They drink milk. Milk is a mixture of fat and
carbs,
and so that mixture is designed precisely to cause that infant to put on body fat rapidly so that it can then use that body fat for energy for the growth spurt, which comes after that. So there it is. So that's the Randall cycle and a little bit about ATP in the liver and all how that all interconnects. But if you're looking for like a guidance from the natural design of things, other than mother's milk, can you, Liza, think of another food that is naturally existing, that's not manufactured, that contains a significant amount of both fat and carbohydrate? Or is it rich in one of those and poor in the other?
Literally nothing.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So animals generally fall into two categories. Those kind of animals who eat mostly plants, which are rich in carbohydrate, low in fat, and those animals that eat mostly other animals, which are rich in fat and poor in carbohydrates, and not very much genuinely in the middle, true omnivorous animals that you know. It's interesting. Anyway, there we go.
So essentially it's not efficient for us to consume carbs and fats.
No.
At all.
It's not. And a lot of people
it makes sense.
They default people to say, well, obviously metabolic flexibility is a good thing. No. Who told you that? Human beings are a specialist species, like every species. Every species has its own specialist niche that it's developed over many millions of years into, and humans are no exception. We are obligate hypercarnivores, meaning we get 70% plus, or are supposed to get 70% plus of our energy in the form of fats and protein, and less than 30% in the form of carbohydrate, but actually mostly those carbohydrates are fibers that we used to get from roots and tubers and things that we used to dig out of the ground when we couldn't hunt mammoth effectively. And by the way, when you break down those fibrous things in your gut, which we can do a little bit, what's the result? Well, it's short-chain fatty acids. They don't break down into sugars because they're insoluble, most of those fibers. Anyway, there you go. There's that. Cool. Great question.
So I also get a lot as an argument from that side on the topic of, like those roots and stuff. Why do we produce salivary amylase
Mm,
if we're not meant to be eating carbs? Because I hear that argument a lot of the time. And I can think, like, the only thing that comes to my mind is, we evolved obviously as hypercarnivores, but I guess to fall back sometimes.
mm,
When we didn't have access to meat, is that why we evolved to have the amylase? When we didn't
right.
have access to
Got
meat,
it.
we would
Yeah. Okay.
get whatever we could from
Yep.
any plant.
The people that throw that one, you think they're being ever so clever, don't they?
Yeah,
But
they think they're like, oh, I got her.
amylase though. Well, here's the thing. The thing that shapes the genetics of any animal, including human beings, there are two pressures: positive selection pressure and negative selection pressure. To lock a gene in and to make a gene occur widely throughout a population, there has to be a clear advantage to that gene over other variants that don't have that gene. Positive selection pressure. So why did we develop salivary amylase? Well, we developed salivary amylase in a former version of humans that weren't yet quite human, some, millions and millions and millions of years ago. There was a benefit in being able to break down carbohydrate. So that's why humans have got salivary amylase, because we come from a stock of animals that were largely herbivorous. To get rid of a gene, there needs to be negative pressure on that gene. It needs to be knocked out. In other words, it has to be so disadvantageous for that gene to be passed on that it isn't. Example, no human being alive today has the gene for the enzyme that's involved in the final step of making our own vitamin C. Why is that? Well, this is a theory.
Okay.
Not a fact. This is a theory, so that's the disclaimer. When there is too much vitamin C in the human body, most of it gets excreted in the urine, absolutely. Most of it does. Not all of it. Some of it gets metabolized. Do you happen to know, Liza, what the metabolite of vitamin C is? It's okay
I'm
if you
not
don't.
sure.
It's oxalate,
Oh, huh.
right?
Yeah.
So, if there is more vitamin C than is needed, maybe we produce too much oxalate and that caused us a problem, and that's how that gene got knocked out, potentially. Or that might be part of it without being the whole story. Whatever it is, there's one or more negative selection pressures that have got rid of that gene. It was disadvantageous. Gone. No human being has that gene. Us and guinea pigs, for some reason. Guinea pigs did the same thing, but no other animals that we're aware of, I think. Anyway, salivary amylase is not disadvantageous. We can put carbohydrate in our mouth and it starts to break down in our mouth, and we can, the availability of carbohydrate to humans as we evolved was rare. When you think about what was going on the planet around the time.
Especially because we had ice ages and then we had
Yep.
heat periods. We
Yep.
didn't really even have access to plants, or we couldn't eat them.
Mm.
And a lot of the times, the way I think about it is, even if we were in a forest hunting, let's say like hundreds of thousands of years ago, if we see a random like fruit or some berries, how do you know if these are okay to eat, if they're poisonous or not?
Mm.
Like, are early humans actually going to take the chance and eat some random plant they find that they could definitely die from? Or are they just going to go hunt? That's
Yep.
how I see it a lot of the time.
So it's something like 98 or 99% of animals can be eaten by humans, and 98 or 99% of plants cannot be eaten by humans.
Yeah, exactly.
So that should tell you something.
Yeah, literally. When you put it like that, I think it gets people thinking.
Yeah. The problem with these people that want to spout this nonsense at you, and they will keep doing it, irrespective of your age, stage, credibility level, education level, whatever else, these imbeciles will keep spouting this nonsense at you because it is so entrenched as a dogma. They have been told so many times, eat the rainbow, fiber is your friend, fat will kill you, as will meat. You know, all of this nonsense, none of which enjoys any science behind it whatsoever. The fact of the matter is these people that are spouting this shit at you really believe it.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's sad. And it's an indictment on their, well, lack of critical thinking skills, I should say. Safe and effective. Effective.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing is, what people should trust me. I'm safe and effective. I am the science, and people shouldn't question the science, even though that's how you do science.
I think it's crazy because most people, as you said, like they're literally brainwashed to believe these things because they've been told them so much. And an example that comes to mind is when I first started, like when I first went carnivore, obviously my mother, she was like, why not the vegetables? Because she was always very supportive of me and my whole family. And they're actually mostly now carnivores. Obviously, they still eat their carbs sometimes, but you know, I've transitioned them a little bit.
Well done, you.
But anyway. Huh?
Well done, you. Good job.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But my mom told me she can't believe that vegetables are bad for us. And I said, well, why are they good for you? Like, what do you think that they're doing? Like, what are the nutrients in them? Or why do you think that they're good for you? And well, she doesn't really have an answer. She's like, you know, because they're good, like they're plants. And obviously, she says, well, fruits, they have vitamin C, like a little bit. Okay. Like, but that's not a good argument for why they're good for you because they're trace amounts. And on top of that, look at the sugar load that comes with it. And especially with the vegetables, though, like my mom had a hard time believing that they weren't good for her. And there wasn't even any reason behind it. I had to really go into the science with her and tell her, okay, but look at all of the toxins that literally prevent the nutrients that exist in the plants from even getting absorbed into your body. In fact, like the plants don't want to be eaten. They have evolved with defense mechanisms to harm whatever tries to eat them. Just like an animal will try to run away, a plant will try to poison you. So I was trying to explain this, and still I'm not fully there yet, but she definitely has gotten better. But yeah, I think most people nowadays is just so in their brain they don't even know why they're eating the rainbow. They don't know why they're eating vegetables. They just say, oh, because they're good for you, but they don't have a reason why.
All right, let me give you something. You've probably heard me say it, or if you've been following any of my material for any, it's people keep telling me I should put this on a t-shirt. Here it is. When somebody says something to you with full surety, this is how something is, vegetables are good for you. Here's what I would say. According to whom, on the basis of what?
Yeah, exactly.
Science shows. Great, cite it.
I think 99% of people, more than that, actually won't be able to answer that question at all.
That's why I ask it.
Yeah.
Because it stops.
It's actually good, yeah.
Great. According to whom, on the basis of what?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, science shows. Great. Cite the science for me. I don't know. The scientists told me that. Which ones? You know?
Yeah.
It stops the argument in its track. You say, well, okay, look, if you want to take the moral high ground here and claim that you've got science behind you, you should have at least enough understanding of what that science is. And you should be prepared to bring that to the table to someone like me who understands science really, really well and defend that science. If you can't do that, you don't understand it well enough to be making statements about what's good for you. You're just repeating something you've heard from somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Other questions?
Yes. So this one I've heard a lot about in the primal community on Instagram. For some reason, there's a lot of people now that are anti-salt. And I wanted your opinion on that because I hear salt is toxic a lot. And I salt my food like crazy, but that's I salt it until it tastes good, you know, until I enjoy it. I personally think that eating an unsalted steak would taste not very good, like disgusting to me. But what do you think about the whole salt is toxic statement?
Okay. Toxicity is very dependent on dose for all sorts of things. Like, I'll give you 2 examples of things that can be so toxic as to kill you. Oxygen and water.
True. There's people that have died from drinking too much water.
That's right. And there are people who have died from having an oxygen tension that's too high because they've burned their lungs with it. Right? So toxicity, you can't say this thing is toxic or not toxic. All things can be toxic in the right dose, if administered in the right way, sort of thing. So yes, salt can cause a person a problem if you take in more salt than your body needs. Luckily, your genes are the peak of evolution to this point. You are the end result, as am I, believe it or not, of something like at least 3,800 million years of positive and negative selection pressures on our gene set. Our genes have worked out a really good way of communicating with us about what the body needs. In terms of how much water should we drink, we have a thing called thirst.
Yeah.
When we need water, we feel thirsty, we drink water, that slakes the thirst, and we go, geez, I'm going to stop drinking water now. And we do, without even really thinking about it. Food. Geez, I feel hungry. Perhaps I need to take some food in. Oh yes, that was the trick. Now I feel full. Now I feel satiated. Good. Same thing with salt. Your instinct is correct about salt, provided you do not throw that system off by pouring a bunch of unnecessary contraindicated carbohydrates down your stupid neck.
Yeah. Because isn't it also if when your insulin is high, it will hold on to it will release the electrolytes more or
Right,
hold
okay.
on.
It's the other way around. Insulin,
Hold on to yeah, it
yeah,
will hold on to
if your insulin is chronically elevated above where it should be, which it will be if you eat any amount of carbohydrates to
yeah.
speak of, then you will be less able to excrete salt and it will build up in your
It'll build
bloodstream.
up. That's why
Yeah,
I always feel puffy. Like I look more inflamed when I'm eating carbs or when I've eaten them.
yeah,
Like you can visibly tell like there's just water buildup. I feel like it just feels like there's water being like
yeah.
stored from like the salt that's just
Mm-hmm.
being held because of the insulin.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
oncotic and osmotic pressure
hmm
gradients to hold the water in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the reason is because your kidneys can't get rid of the excess salt. It's down to insulin. Now, that doesn't mean insulin's a bad thing. Insulin is an absolutely good thing. It has a role to play in the body. It has an exact thing it's supposed to do. However, what we need to understand is what we should be doing with our insulin on a daily basis is not bang, bang, bang,
Yeah.
3 or 4 times a day. No. So there it is. It's about working with our biology, which of course would first necessitate a person to understand what our biology is, which would therefore necessitate not listening to the mainstream
Yeah,
disinformation
exactly.
mill that has a financial vested interest in us being unwell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also had a question. Do you think that the like goal of carnivore is to be in ketosis all the time, or what do you think of like the macros
Yeah.
or protein versus fat? Do you just
Right.
how do you really should we try and add more fat, or do we just eat whatever
Okay.
we feel like?
If you go and look at the wall of any cave in the world where there are cave paintings by ancient humans, how many of those images are of ancient humans standing around with calculators working out their macros?
0.
Exactly the same number as pictures of people sat around tables with bowls of salad or fruit, isn't it? They're all
Mm-hmm.
pictures of hunting animals. Interesting. So there it is. The makeup of an animal differs, sure, between different species, but human beings became specialists at hunting and eating large ruminants. And so that's what the basis of the human diet should be, in my not so very humble opinion. So the most common, readily available large ruminant for modern humans today is cattle. I can see some out the window right now. I'm a farmer, by the way. These days.
Really?
I
Oh
bought a
wow.
farm. They said, be a farmer. They said, it'll be great. About 16, 17 months ago, we bought the farm, and absolutely the learning curve on that is just something else again, including we had
Wow.
2 biblical floods that came through our property and just
Oh my
about wiped us
God.
out.
Where's the farm?
It's in a place called the Tasman district, which is at the top of the South Island of New Zealand. It's beautiful.
Wow, what animals do you guys have there?
We have low-line Angus cattle. We have goats. We have sheeps. We have ducks. We have chickens.
Wow.
We have
A whole
2
zoo.
hopeless dogs. And we have several hopeless humans. And it's kind of like an extended family thing. I've got my sister and 2 nieces and a nephew are here, and my mum comes and goes as well to kind of help with the craziness. So yeah, it's really good. Anyway, what were we talking about before we got onto the farming? Oh yes, how we should eat. We should eat largely, mostly ruminant animals.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the thing that should guide you as to what goes in your mouth is your instincts, because they're good so long as you don't poison those instincts with carbohydrates. I've never counted a macro, at least not since I became educated. I used to do it as a kid.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, when I was told that that was a good thing and I should count my calories, which is impossible, let alone completely irrelevant to anything. But there you go. Yep, so eat according to what you fancy that day. And what you'll find is that your protein intake will be quite stable at whatever level it is. And what will vary mostly is how much fat you have with that. And that's right and proper. That's what should happen.
That makes sense, because sometimes I feel more of a leaner meat, and then other times I just want to add like a bunch of tallow to my steak.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
So a number of things will affect that. Number one, your activity level that day, even that week, because there's a bit of a, as a female, your cycle will have an effect on that. Stress levels, demands of your school life, social life, whatever else. All of this, it's a rich tapestry is basically what the take-home message is. So, you just go with your instincts on any given day. And, they won't, as I say, as long as you don't destroy those instincts with carbohydrates, those instincts will be right. And you will very, very closely match intakes to requirement, naturally. Your genes have been doing it for a long, long time.
Yeah.
A long time.
Yeah. I mean, we are animals.
Yeah.
The only ones that think that it's a good idea to sit on our phones and track every single molecule and the weight of all of our food. I think it's so strange when I'm on social media and I'm scrolling and I see someone with a scale and they're like to the gram measuring their rice and their food. It's like, what are you doing? How do you live like this? Yeah.
It's not for me.
I fell victim to it a while ago, but no, I don't do that anymore, because I like you said, we're animals. We have instinct.
I think it comes initially from this false, ridiculous idea, calories in, calories out, they tell us.
I was going to ask you about that.
Like, well, let's do it. We'll do that.
Calories not matter.
Okay, we can do that. Is that the next question? Yes. Or? All right, cool. Here's why. What is a calorie?
I know it's like a change in temperature. Correct. When you combust
it is
something in an oven.
That's right. It's a gauge of the energy required to raise 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius. That's what a calorie is. Okay.
So how was that ever translated into like what humans should eat?
Right. So here's my favorite.
So far from how we work.
That's right. So again, my favorite word for the day, parsimonious. Again, meaning excessively sparing. What they say is, well, energy is fungible, meaning it can be changed from form to form to form, which is true. You can change energy from one form to another. Here's what that ignores. To change energy from one form to another, you need a piece of kit, a mechanism of some kind to do that. The human body does not have the machinery to translate heat energy into chemical, biological energy. It is a complete, again, you've seen it already. I've got one of these sitting on my desk, okay? That's US $20. I live in New Zealand. I can't take that down the corner dairy and spend it, the corner store. I can put that on the counter and say, my good man, can you sell me some meat, and that shopkeeper will say, no, you need to take that to the bank and change it to New Zealand dollars. We don't take that here. Rightly so too. Goodness me. I'm kidding a bit. It's the same thing in the human body. If we could use heat energy for metabolic process, we wouldn't need to eat food. We could sit in the sun.
Yeah, photosynthesize.
We can't do that. That's really it in a nutshell. And then you get to all the technical explanations of as to why that's so and what the basic laws of physics are that underpin that. And what you get to at the end of all of that, at the bottom of the rabbit warren, as we understand it, is that calories are manifest as photons, which are the excitations of the electromagnetic field. Their mass, the mass of a photon, doesn't weigh anything. So the addition of any number of photons or the loss of any number of photons from the human body cannot affect your weight or the makeup of your weight in any way. It's simple basic physics.
So calories are just meaningless.
It's just nonsense. Yes, it's absolute rubbish. The human body works on a combination, actually, it seems, of chemical stored potential energy and lately, not even that lately actually, but relatively lately in the consciousness of many scientists, there seems to be an amount that also comes from another source to do with structured water. So anyway, there it is. Calories, nonsense.
It doesn't. Do you think they're even like a good baseline for people to measure? Because I think that even like a number that an app gives you, it doesn't know how you're moving throughout the day. Like it can tell you you're burning this amount, but it has no idea.
Right. Well, I can answer that question by giving you an example of why they're not. If you look at the nutrition label on any foodstuff whatsoever, it will say grams of fat, grams of carbohydrate, grams of protein, and it will give you an amount of energy in kcalories for that number of grams of, for example, protein. And it will tell you that carbohydrate and protein both provide around about 4 kcals of energy per gram. Okay, that's awesome if and only if all the protein you eat is broken down and oxidized in the mitochondria, which it isn't, is it? Yeah. It ends up in your body structures. It ends up growing. Yeah, exactly. I was going to say it ends up growing out of the follicles on your head, but that's not true for me. For you it is. Clearly you have some hair. It ends up being, in your skin and your teeth and your bones and your eyeballs and, protein makes up 65% of your dry weight. That stuff isn't oxidized. So in effect, how much energy have you derived from eating that? None at all.
Yeah.
So why does it say 4 kcalories? That's nonsense.
I've never thought about that.
And that's before we talk about the thermic effect of food, which adds an additional thing. Like it costs some energy to break down various different foods, and as such, you don't get the same amount out as if you were a bomb calorimeter burning those calories immediately under a large electrical impulse, say. So anyway, the whole thing is just rubbish. Yeah, it's not scientific. It's parsimonious, anti-scientific, well, pseudo-scientific / anti-scientific, lazy communication, which is inaccurate. You cannot count the number of calories you take in accurately without 7 PhDs and a lab full of PhD students to help you measure all this stuff. And you've got even less chance of measuring how many you so-called spend.
Yeah.
So it's nonsense. It's a complete waste of... The only way that you can make that work for you, and this is why they'll tell you, okay, CICO, calories in, calories out, just works. What are you talking about, you idiot, is what they say. Yeah, it does work. If you reduce the so-called caloric intake by 500 or more calories a day, then you can get a predictable result, yes. The problem with that, though, is it's going to destroy your metabolism.
Because if someone reduces their calories by, let's say, 100, they wouldn't even lose weight, no? Because their metabolism would just compensate. Like, would just slow down. It's only if you, like, cut in half that it will actually make a difference. And it's not even because there's less calories. It's just because your body is now resorting to, like, there's no more energy to burn, so it will burn your fat
There you
instead.
go. So your understanding is now above the level
Yeah,
of most academics in the field of nutrition
does
science, who
make
will tell you that
sense.
calories
Yeah.
make sense.
And yeah, also, as you said, if you drastically cut them, it will slow down your metabolism.
That's right. And destroy your metabolism in all sorts of other
Yeah.
ways. It'll mess your
So,
hormones up.
yeah. Oh,
Just
100%.
stay away from that. Do not
Yeah.
restrict calories.
Yeah. So if someone were to, because I get a lot of followers and people asking me like, oh, I want to cut down a little bit on weight. How would you ask them to go about that? Maybe I've heard like fasting. I've done a lot of fasting myself, not even for the weight loss, just for I feel good when I do it, and
Yep.
it just helps me reset sometimes. And I've heard doing low fat carnivore as well, but I'm not sure. It seems a bit iffy to me if it's a good idea to reduce fat
Right.
by a lot.
In terms of the fasting, like I just said a few minutes ago, do not restrict your calories. That means chronically across time for months at a
Yeah.
time. That's what I mean. Fasting is an absolutely valid tool, and it's consistent with our biological experience, our past as a species. There were periods of time when the tribe could not take down mammoth because they weren't around, or the hunt was unsuccessful, or whatever. Calories were not available. And so fasting occurred. And what the body does, the human body does, after about 3 days of not taking in food, it starts to crank up a few things. There's a bit of metabolic cleanup called autophagy, or Americans would say autophagy. We call it autophagy sometimes, depending where you come from in the English-speaking world.
It too, yeah.
Autophagy or autophagy, whatever. And there's an increase in the release of adult stem cells, which is a good thing. And by the way, if you want to increase your intake of adult stem cells, you can do that without fasting by taking these fine products here, which you can get at the address, which will be underneath this video later. There you go. Cha-ching. That's great stuff. So, yes, fasting, good. Low-fat carnivore is entirely at odds with our evolutionary biological design. We are designed by many millions of years of evolution to gain our body structures, the raw ingredients for our body structures in the form of protein, and to derive energy by oxidizing fat. So you reduce the amount of fat below a certain level, and you're going to start having a problem. You're going to get hunger signaling that's going to happen, for one, which means you're going to eat more protein. And if you eat more protein than your body needs, then it's going to deaminate that and turn it into sugar. It's a bad idea. It's a stupid idea. Sorry, Craig and Maria. It's just dumb.
Yeah, because I've also heard from them that they're all about the like 100% protein, or majority protein, like no fat, no carbs.
Yep.
And I feel like the fasting, it works with your biology, as you said, because we didn't always have access to food. So it makes sense that fasting, do you consider 1 meal a day a form of fasting?
I don't. I consider fasting starts at about 3 days of no food intake.
3 days?
Yeah.
I haven't hit 3 days yet. I've done 60 hours, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, so I think fasting would just be better because it works again with our biology and not against it, like the calorie counting, the restriction, and the low fat carnivore as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, unless somebody of your age had a weight problem, or a fat problem, I should say, I would not suggest that a person your age would do a lot of fasting, personally. The primary goal of fasting for most people is to get rid of excess fat. Okay. Yeah.
So I had a question. What do you think about supplementing with vitamins and minerals on the carnivore diet?
Okay.
Because I think, well, at least, or even like vitamin D and some things that people say that we don't really get a lot. Because I personally, I don't supplement at all because I don't feel a need to. But some people say, oh, you're going to get a vitamin C deficiency. Oh, you're going to be deficient in folate, which I don't know. Like, I've never experienced any harmful symptoms, so I don't see a problem. But what do you think about that?
Okay. A reasonably sensibly formulated 100% carnivore diet consisting of around about 80% or more meat and associated fat from large ruminant animals, that diet contains absolutely everything you need in the amount that you need it. There are no reasons whatsoever to expect that any human being, any given human being, is likely to experience any kind of deficiency on that diet. So not vitamin D, not vitamin C. Mostly vitamin D is synthesized by the interaction of sunlight and your skin
Exactly.
rather than your
Yeah.
diet anyway. And actually, the precursor is in the same metabolic pathway as cholesterol.
Yeah.
So again, it's just another reason to have a nice animal heavy diet, basically. And so I mean, the reason that you're not going to be vitamin C deficient is because a lot of people don't understand that the primary transporter for vitamin C
Is it the GLUT?
is GLUT4, correct, which is the same one that's involved in transporting glucose.
Yeah, glucose.
So if you've got a whole bunch of glucose in your bloodstream all the time because you eat too many carbs,
Mhm.
then the glucose will outcompete the vitamin C because it's much, much higher in concentration than vitamin C ever could be. Ergo, you could be vitamin C deficient. Remove that loading on that transporter of the need to transport a whole bunch of glucose, and with nanograms per deciliter of blood vitamin C concentrations, you'll be fine. That's why carnivores aren't dropping dead of scurvy.
Yeah, not a single one. I've never
Not
heard of
one.
a case.
Not one ever.
Not one, yeah.
Yeah. There is talk about James Blunt potentially having scurvy at one point, that his doctor said, oh, maybe you've got scurvy without even actually testing it. Because when he was at university, apparently for a couple of weeks, he ate a diet which consisted entirely of chicken and mayonnaise. Oh, well.
Oh my
Whatever.
God.
Good thing he can sing, because clearly thinking isn't up. Anyway, there it is.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And I also think that when people are tracking their vitamin intake through their food and stuff, like where do you get the number from of the recommended daily intake? Like what does that consist of? What is that?
This is fun.
Why are we following this?
Okay,
You know?
let me tell you how the RDAs get formed. Here's what happens. Somebody from the good adults at government goes, knock, 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 knock. And they say, Professor K, would you like to chair a committee on how much vitamin C we should eat? And I say, sure, why not? That'll look good on my CV. I'm not going to get paid for it, but I'll do this because I can write consulted to the government on vitamin C. Here's what I do. I invite my friends to be on the panel with me. Now, Ted, how much vitamin C do you think we should take in? Well, my reading of the literature tells me this, that, and the other thing. Great, Ted. Are there any actual experiments in that literature at all? No, it's all just reviews. Great, that'll do. So we form an opinion based on other people's opinions.
Yeah.
And we put together this written response to the government, the good folks at government, and we say, you need X number of grams of vitamin C a day to prevent scurvy, which also assumes that you're eating carbohydrates as well, because that's what people do, mostly.
Yeah,
It's rubbish.
because a lot of the time, I'll see influencers, they'll react to people's what I eat in a days, and then they'll calculate the vitamin intake. And sometimes when someone's eating like a carnivore diet, they'll be short on a few things. But why would that matter if they feel great, if there's no issue with their life, you know? And also, like, yeah, I feel like these apps and these trackers cannot even tell the difference between the plant version of something like vitamin A or beta carotene and the animal version. It's just going to assume that every nanogram of everything you eat, every microgram is absorbed, which is just not true in the plants. So, like, I've seen people eat cups of spinach and, like, look how many vitamins and minerals I've been eating. It's like, first of all, you're going to get a kidney stone. Second of all, like, what is actually getting absorbed? You have no way of telling.
That's right. Yep. Well, there you go. I think you've got a very mature view on that as well. It's very clear that you understand this very, very well. Yep. No, personally, I do not suggest that any nutritional supplement is required by people. I do think you should increase your adult stem cells. But that's nutraceutical. That's not nutrition.
What do you think about certain herbs when you're sick? Because, antibiotic oregano oil, I've heard about that, or how some plants can have a healing effect.
Great.
on the body.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm very gratified to hear someone from anywhere near America pronouncing the H on the front of herbs, because it is there. There is an H, and it should be pronounced. So well
It
done.
is.
Because otherwise you'd be talking about herbs and ealing instead of healing,
Yeah.
wouldn't you? Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And I could ask you, where is your ohm? The H is there for a reason. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm kidding a little bit. Of course I am. Humans have been using herbs for medicinal purpose since time immemorial. Herbs are not nutrition, they are medicine, if they are used correctly as such. I've got no problem with that.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, because I also think that there's a difference between fruits and vegetables and then herbs, which you use when like you're sick. And you also shouldn't be using herbs all the time, every single day and stuff.
Yeah.
Especially I've heard garlic is so healthy, garlic is so like people say that all the time. And garlic does have antimicrobial, antibacterial properties,
Yeah.
but um, would it become a problem if someone would have that every single day? Like a because wouldn't that also get rid of the good bacteria
There you
in your
go.
gut if you're just constantly eating garlic? Because
Yes.
that's what I tell people, especially my father, because he loves garlic and he's always eating it. And I'm saying, okay, if you're sick, maybe I presume if you take a clove of garlic, if you want to ingest that, it can help, I guess. But if you're having that so often, then it's also going to it's like get rid of good bacteria in your system because antibiotics cannot tell the difference between bad and good bacteria. They're just going to kill everything.
That's right. Is he afraid of
Right.
vampires, perhaps?
I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe. Well,
Maybe that's why. Yeah.
Liza's dad, if you're watching, a bit of garlic here and there isn't a problem, but goodness.
Every day. Like also raw sometimes. I think, yeah, I don't know.
Also, maybe ask Liza's mum whether she thinks it's a good idea that you eat a lot of garlic.
Yeah, that can't smell good. No.
Anyway, there we go.
I had another question about dairy on carnivore because sometimes I'm gonna indulge in some homemade ice cream. I make carnivore ice cream
Nice.
with my Ninja Creamy, yeah, but I think it's obviously it's not, ancestrally like appropriate and we didn't really, evolve to be eating heavy cream in these amounts or just any dairy, but what do you think about just eating it maybe once in a while, or would you recommend to eat it daily or weekly? How do you feel?
I'm not one of these puritanical folks that thinks you should be 100% carnivore every single day of your life and never transgress in any way whatsoever. I think that some people can do that and some people need to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that that's fine for those people if they can and or need to do that. I feel like being somewhere in the 90 to 95% carnivore range across time gets me to a level that I'm happy with the health benefits of, while it doesn't impact on my life so much that I find it a chore. I mean, I am going to have a beer with the lads after sport on Saturday. And yes, I play sport still in my mid-50s. So there's something for you. If there is the odd cake or cookie around, I might have one now and then. I know, Ted tells me I've got a hand in my card. But at the end of the day, your health ongoingly across time is about what you do nutritionally across time, among other factors, of course.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about what you do on any one given day, unless you decide to drink litres of something that's immediately toxic like cyanide. Okay, that'll affect you on that day. You'll be dead that day. But,
yeah,
I mean, a bit of milk, a bit of dairy product here and there, well, that's not necessarily ancestrally in line, although it is to some degree because we've actually been keeping animals and using their lactations for food for a long, long time. So we are adapted to that to some degree, some of us. There's still I think it's still 2/3 of the population that have some degree of lactose intolerance.
Yeah.
Although there's also an argument that maybe it's not really truly lactose intolerance. It's actually about what happens when you pasteurize the milk, and that causes a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I consume quite a bit of raw dairy because we have goats and sheep that we milk.
I had access to raw dairy like you
Awesome.
did, I would
Love it.
consume a lot of it as
Yeah.
well. Because we do have, well, it is illegal where I
Mm,
live in Canada,
mm,
but you can always get around it. We know a farmer who like sells it to us, but
mm,
it's really expensive to the point where, a lot of the time, are you going to pay $16 for like a
mm.
gallon of
Yeah.
milk?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Cool. Yep.
So yeah. Yeah. What do you think about the carbs in dairy? And can it become a problem if someone is consuming that
Yeah.
like on a regular
It
basis,
can.
like a lot of
It can do. Obviously, it's a rich tapestry with lots of inputs and outputs.
it? Mhm,
The best gauge is your body composition stable? Are you gaining fat? If you are, knock off the milk before you try anything else.
mhm.
That might help, sort of thing. So there it is. I've got a question for you
Yes, of course.
because I'm fascinated about politics and the way the world is going, and I'm not liking it. Let's be honest. As a young person growing up in Canada, Stan, what are your feelings about the way that your country is heading? Just briefly, without necessarily getting too far into it. Are
Um,
you full of hope for the future, or are you like, well, if we keep going this way, there could be a problem?
so I'm actually moving next year in the summer to Florida because
Nice.
of how much I
Oh, the
don't
weather's
like it
better there
here.
anyway. The weather's much better.
Yeah,
Mm,
exactly. So honestly, I think, I've lost hope personally for like the political climate in
right.
Canada. I don't know. It's not pleasant to live here. First of all, the weather,
Mm,
I can't handle it the winter 7, 8 months a year. I need the sun. I get
yeah.
seasonal depression,
Right.
and I just need to be able to go outside for a walk, get in the sun, tan whenever I want.
Mm,
And also, it's just like life, the quality of life here it's not good anymore.
mm,
So,
yeah.
hence,
Mm,
I'm getting out.
yep.
Yeah, next year
Cool.
for school.
All right. Team America.
Yeah.
You know how the song goes. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Good. Anyway, back to more sensible stuff. More
Yes.
questions.
What was my last question here? Let me see. Oh, yes. So when it comes to building muscle on carnivore or training, how do you think that one should go about that? Is there a difference like male versus female,
Mm,
how you should train, and what's like the most
right.
optimal way to do it on
Are,
a carnivore diet?
are boys different from girls? Is that the question? I'm
Well,
kidding.
we know they
I'm
are,
kidding.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
they are. They're quite different, aren't
yeah,
they, Ted?
very.
Even Ted knows, don't you, Ted? Yes. See, Ted knows. Ted knows all, of course, and Ted sees all. You can't get away from Ted. Terry Simpson. Ted's watching you still. Even though you're pretending not to listen to Ted anymore, Ted's still right, and you're still wrong. Yes, right. Muscle building. Muscle building. Okay. Muscle building is all about training. Obviously, there are inputs that can assist and or break down your training results, including diet, stressors, the balance of a bunch of things. Is it easier for a male to build muscle mass than a female? No, absolutely not. That's why it's completely fair that women should be forced to compete with biological males. Obviously, I'm being stupid. Of course, that's
Yeah. Scary.
yes. Testosterone is a thing.
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely. The Y chromosome does absolutely have an impact. I'm sorry about that if that makes me a bigot. It's just a biological
No.
fact. But the principles are really pretty similar in that hypertrophy training is about, well, I think as an exercise physiologist first, that was my first specialization, by the way, that the building of muscle mass is about high intensity, low volume. I think that's the most efficient way. There are other ways. There are many ways to skin a cat. You can build muscle mass with high volume, lower intensity. Yes, you can.
Mhm.
Should you do that? I think not. At the end of the day, I look at exercise in the same way that pharmaceuticals should be looked at, and that is this. What is the minimum effective dose of this thing that we can give a person? Not more is better, and even more is even better than that. No, it isn't. High intensity, low volume, get in, get out, get it done. whole body, no splits required unless you're an advanced hypertrophy athlete competing in bodybuilding. It's a whole body split every time, head to tail. 12 or 13 big compounds gets the job done. And you should be in and out of that gym in 45 minutes, and that includes the shower. Frankly.
Yeah, it's
2 sets.
okay.
8 to 10
2
reps.
sets?
Yeah, 2 sets, 8 to 10 reps, each muscle group. No more. Especially as a young person who doesn't yet probably have completely fused epiphyseal plates, because you're only going to do your body damage.
Mhm. And do you think that like males should train upper body more than women do? Because no, we should also train upper body. Because I've heard like from both sides, people say women don't need to train their upper body, or then other people say women should also train their arms.
One's training, be they male or female, notice there were 2 options there.
Yeah.
One's training should be informed by one's goals. In other words, what is it that you want to be able to physically do? So the first question is that realistic? Once you've decided it is and it can be achieved, then you would set a training program up to achieve that goal.
Yeah, that answers it.
Training
Okay,
is
thank
specific.
you.
Not at all. It's my pleasure. I'm here to help. So is Ted, mostly.
Yeah. Those were all the questions I had.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
No, my pleasure.
You answered them very like perfectly. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you very much. Look, I appreciate your time. And as I say, it's very, very gratifying, and it gives me great hope for the future that there are young people that have a brain cell.
Yeah.
You've got more than one. That's awesome. I'd love to have you back on the program again, perhaps for a
I'd
live.
love to be back.
Are you brave
Yeah.
enough to do a live with me?
I am, yes.
Awesome.
Of course,
Good.
I'm
All
open
right.
to it.
So we'll make that happen, and I'll make sure that my audience behave because of your tender young age, of course, because my audience are a bit, well, they're mostly
okay.
men between 25 and 55. Let's face it, that's what they are. And they're also strongly opinionated because I've made them so, I think. Or maybe,
I think that's good.
yeah, or maybe I didn't make them so. Maybe they were already that, and that's what attracted them to my channel. But yes, so when Liza comes on again, my audience behave properly, goodness, and ask her the questions, and she'll give you the answers. And I think they'll be pretty good answers, despite her young age. There it is. All right, and if you want to see that, make sure you comment below that we want to see that, so that we can make it happen. All right. In the meantime, I think that's all we have time for, even though we have as much time as we want, really. But no, it's been really good. And yep, everybody, if you haven't already, go and sub to Liza's Instagram, which we've already heard the title of, but give it to us again.
Liza's Life 360, and it's the same for YouTube as well.
There you go, Liza's Life 360. So go and get subbed to both of those. Make comments under the videos, appropriate comments, thank you. And that helps Al Gore with his rhythms. All right. So join us next time when someone will be wrong on the interwebs, because it doesn't look like slowing down, does it? No. Say bye-bye nicely.